Hello and welcome back to the Wheel Order channel. Today I'm going to be making two delicious seafood recipes. So I'm going to be making the lovely herring in oatmeal, and I'm going to be making some cheesy bacon scallops on toast. These are so good. So for your herring in oatmeal, you're going to need 1 tablespoon of butter for frying your herring in your pan, 2 fresh herring fillets, oatmeal approximately 6 tablespoons, salt and pepper, 6 baby potatoes, 2 eggs, 2 spring onions chopped up fine, and 2 to 3 tablespoons of mayo, parsley or dill, and lemon wedges to serve. They are optional, and you can also add in some salad items like tomato or capers, or even some salad greens as well would also work really well. So we're going to add the salt into the water first, bring it to the boil, and add in your potatoes a little bit more carefully than I have done here. And then in another pan, we're going to boil some water and pop our eggs in. So if you just pop your oatmeal into a dish, so you're going to need about 6 to 8 tablespoons. I think I used 6 in total, but you might need a little bit more. And then we're just going to season our oatmeal with lots of salt and pepper. So once you have all your salt in there, we're going to add in our pepper, and then we're just going to give that a really good stir through just to ensure that the salt and pepper is mixed through the oatmeal nice and evenly. So we're just going to give that a really good mix through just to make sure it's all mixed together really well. And we're going to use this for coating our herring. So this is a real simple traditional Scottish recipe. It's so easy to make. There really is not much to it at all. So once your potatoes are boiled and nice and soft, you're going to drain those, and then we're going to chop them up into smaller pieces. So if you just pop them into your bowl just now and set them aside, and we're going to drain our eggs as well. We're going to leave our eggs to cool in the bowl while we are doing the herring. So we're just mixing the salt and pepper through again just to make sure it's all nice and mixed well, and we're going to put some butter into the frying pan. I've used about a tablespoon here in total for the whole recipe, so you might need a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on the size of your pan. So if you just leave that butter to melt, and just make sure that your pan is completely covered in butter. You could also use olive oil, but I like the flavour that the butter gives to this recipe, so we'd recommend using the butter if you can. And then we're just going to take our herring, so make sure it is washed and that it's quite dry as well. You could also pat it on a piece of kitchen paper if it's not really dry. And then we're just going to press it down into the oatmeal. So I have actually just pressed it down, and I'm also scooping some oatmeal up the sides, just pop it on the top just to make sure that everything is really well covered. And I've just turned it a couple of times to do this. So once you have your piece of herring fully covered in as much oatmeal as it will hold, you want to pop that into the pan. So I'm actually putting the herring fillets down skin first into the pan, so we're going to cook that side first. We're just going to pop that to the side. So the pan is on about a medium-ish heat, so you're not looking for something too hot, so you don't want to burn these. And they should move about loosely in the pan as well, as your pan is well oiled. So we're going to do our second fillet there while that one is cooking away in the pan. And I'm cooking them for about 5 minutes on each side as well. And I used a timer for that, so just make sure you keep a close eye, because if they're super fresh, you want to keep them nice and soft. You don't want to dry them out completely. So 5 minutes on each side was more than enough for mine. So just keep a close eye when you're cooking them. So I'm just pressing all the oatmeal down into the second piece of herring, and we're just going to pop that into the pan along with the other one. So 5 minutes on each side, and then you are ready to serve. So I actually also like to take a little piece of butter, and I like to move it around the edges of the pan, and I just find that this crisps up the edges of the herring really well. So if you just melt an extra piece, you don't have to do this, but it's just a little trick of mine. I also sometimes do this with pancakes as well. It's a little bit naughty, but it's really delicious. So we're just going to flip these as well after the 5 minutes, so just be careful when you are flipping them over. And we're just going to cook another 5 on that side. If you don't want to go for the whole fried experience with the butter and everything, you could probably bake these in the oven, but they would be a little bit dry compared to frying them, but it's maybe an option. So I've chopped up all the potatoes into small pieces like this, and we're now going to chop up or peel our eggs rather, and we're then going to chop our eggs up into small pieces as well. So we're looking for kind of about the same size as the potatoes here. So if you just do both your eggs, and then we are just going to set those aside. So we're just adding all our mayo into our potatoes here. I'm actually using a really fancy mayo. It's a truffle mayo I'm using, but you can just use plain mayo. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You could even make your own mayonnaise if you want to as well. So we're just giving that a really good mix through. And we're then going to add in our dill. Now, you don't have to use dill, you can use parsley instead if you don't have dill available. It just looks a little bit dark because I've actually just washed it. So this is just fresh out my garden. I love dill, it's so good with fish. So I'm just adding plenty of dill in here. Now I'm just adding in some chopped spring onions here as well. And I'm now going to pop in the egg. So we just want to stir the egg around really, just give it a real gentle stir. Just remove that tiny piece of shell there that I've just spotted as well. We're just going to stir that through really gently. So we don't want to break the egg yolk up too much. We want to try and keep it as solid as possible. And we're just giving that a really good season with salt and pepper. You can also add in a little bit of spice here as well if you want to. It's entirely up to you, but I just like it quite bland because it just goes really well with the fish this way. And we're just going to mix the seasonings through again. So we're going to serve up our herring straight away. It is actually really nice cold as well, so you could have it as a cold salad if you want to leave it to cool, but I like to serve it hot, and I'm just serving it up with a good dollop of the egg and potato salad. And I'm also adding a little bit of tomato as well, so that's optional. So your herring should look something like this when it is finished, and it is absolutely delicious. It's one of my favourite recipes. So for your cheesy bacon scallops, you're going to need 2 bacon rashers, 6 large scallops, and you want to half your scallops as well, so that you have 2 large pieces. 1 teaspoon of butter, half a red onion, and we're chopping that up pretty fine, salt and pepper. And for the sauce, you're going to need 30 grams of butter, 30 grams of plain flour, 300 ml of milk, 60 grams of grated cheese, and 4 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. So to get started, we're going to add some butter into our cast iron pan, and we're going to melt that down. We're then going to add in our finely chopped red onion, and we're just going to give that a good stir through. And we're then going to chop in our bacon. So I'm actually just slicing it up into quite thin pieces. You can kind of get a good idea from the video here. You can also use pancetta, or you could slice it even further if you want to. I found that this texture and size worked really well, so I went for this. And we're just popping our scallops in. So I've actually cut the scallops in half because mine were really large. So you're going to get 12 pieces out of 6 large scallops. You could also use really small scallops if you wanted to as well, but I love the large ones, and we get those fresh from the fish van as well. So I've used those. So you just pop them all on top of the bacon, and you just let them cook really gently. We're looking for a medium heat here in the pan, and while that's cooking away, we're going to add some butter into our pan, and we're going to make our white sauce, and we're going to add our flour in there as well, and we're just going to whisk that up for a minute or so just to cook the flour down. And we are then going to add in our milk, just a little bit at a time. So we're really just making a basic white sauce here, and this just works so well with the cheese and the bacon. It's a really delicious recipe, and if you just pop in all your milk, so if you just add a little bit in a time, and then you can just go with the rest, and if you just give that a good whisk through on the heat until it is completely smooth, and you want to just cook that away for a few minutes. So we're just giving our scallops a wee stir now, just to make sure we get the other sides done. So we're not cooking our scallops on any kind of a high heat or anything. This is a real medium to low kind of heat. We don't want to cook them for very long. So our sauce is looking nice and thick now, and it is just about ready to serve. So we're going to take that off the heat and just check on our scallops again. And we're going to add some salt into our white sauce and some pepper. If you find at any point your sauce gets too thick, you can just add in a little bit extra milk just to thin it down. Just make sure that you give it a good whisk through. So we're going to give that a whisk through just now, and then we are going to pour this all over our scallops. So you don't need to use as much as I have here, you can use less if you want to. But I like these nice and creamy, and it goes really well with the toast this way. And we're then going to add in our breadcrumbs. So this is just going to thicken everything up a little bit. So I'm just using a stale piece of bread. And we're looking for about 4 tablespoons of breadcrumbs in total. So if you just stir those into your sauce, just make sure they are really well mixed in. And we're then going to grate all of our cheese on the top of this dish, and we're going to be popping this into the oven. So you're going to want to set your oven to 170 and pop this in for about 15 minutes. You're looking for it looking like something like this. So it's nice and bubbly, the cheese is all melted on the top, and this is how you want to serve it. Everything is pretty much almost cooked before you pop it into the oven, so it really doesn't need long at all. So it should look something like this, and you just want to scoop up those delicious scallop pieces and pop them onto small pieces of toast and serve them up. You can also sprinkle some herbs on top as well if you want to, and you could also serve this up with a salad on the side as well. So these are super delicious cheesy bacon morsels. They are so good. And I've just added on some herbs there as well. So just add on a little bit of parsley. And I just added on some pepper as well. You could add another extra sprinkle of salt if you want to. So I hope you enjoyed these delicious recipes that were created from my recent Aberdeen foodie tour. My dad always talked very fondly of eating lots of herring when he was younger, growing up in the city, so I thought I would share this recipe with you all. So if you enjoyed this recipe, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell next to it, I'll see you guys again soon. And if you took any photographs of your lovely herrings in oatmeal or your cheesy bacon scallops, please feel free to tag me on Instagram. And if you love traditional Scottish recipes, I'm sure you'll love my free traditional Scottish cookbook, which is available over my website at angiemilne.com. So take care, and I hope to see you all again soon. Lots of love. Bye bye.